Hi, I'm Robyn from Red Robyn Crafts. Today I'd like to show you how to blanket stitch around the edge of a piece of felt, or indeed around the edge of a completed felt book page. In this example, you can see blanket stitching around the edge of Humpty Dumpty and around the edge of the page itself. It's a quick and easy stitch once you've mastered it, and you'll find that it adds some extra interest to your project. This type of blanket stitch is used anytime you're wanting to stitch around the edge of two pieces of fabric to stitch them together. So you can see here that I have my pink piece and my green piece. I have the raw edges aligned because these are the edges that I'm wanting to stick together. So to get started with this stitch, I'm actually just going to take that top piece. I've got my needle already threaded and a knot in the end of the thread. And I'm going to pass my needle up from underneath so that what I'm actually doing is trapping my knot in between these two layers of felt. Now I'm going to come up where I want my first stitch to begin. Knot's trapped there. And then the second piece can come up to join it. And I'm going to make sure that my two edges are nicely aligned there. Now the first stitch is just slightly different. With this one, I want to now bring my needle back up from behind. This time I'm passing it through both layers of fabric. And you can see as I pull the needle through, it's forming a loop there. I now want to pass my needle through this loop. And what that will do, pull that tight, to ensure that my thread is now caught right up at this raw edge of the felt. Now I can continue blanket stitching as normal, so it's just that first stitch that's a little bit different. To continue blanket stitching, I always like to have the raw edges of the fabric facing away from me. It helps me to then use my left hand to trap this loop. You'll come to realize that the loop with blanket stitching is very important. You need to make sure that you just trap that between your fingers so that it remains while you're completing your stitch, as you're going to need it right at the end. So what I do, I trap this loop between my fingers. Then from the top side this time, I'm going to pass my needle down through both layers of fabric and bring my needle out over the top of my fingers. This way, when I pull the thread through, it's going to be already inside that loop, so that as I pull, that thread is going to trap the loop to create my first blanket stitch. I'll show you that again. So trap the loop inside my fingers, needle goes down from the top side of the fabric and back out over my fingers. Oops. There it is. Now with any type of blanket stitching that you're doing, one of the most important things in order to keep it looking neat and attractive is that you want your stitching to remain even. So what I mean by that is you want each stitch to be roughly as long as it is wide. Now you might notice here on my felt, I've actually used a water-soluble marker to mark little dots where I want each stitch to begin. If you're new to blanket stitching, I recommend you do a similar thing. This way you can be sure that you're creating a real square shape with your stitches, which is always what looks best with blanket stitch. So each of my stitches are roughly 5 millimeters or 1/4 of an inch long, and again 5 millimeters or 1/4 of an inch wide. If you've blanket stitched before, then that probably isn't necessary for you to use the marks on your felt. You can probably just guide it by eye, which to be honest is normally what I would do. I've really just used the marks for demonstration purposes. Now I'm coming up to the corner here, and to take care of a 90-degree angle like this, it's nice and straightforward, but it does involve an additional little step. So to take care of the corner, I'm going to do my first stitch. This corner is actually going to be a series of 3 blanket stitches. My first one's complete, it's exactly the same as what I've been doing up until now. My second one is going to be a diagonal stitch that's going to take it right into the point of that corner there. And I'm going to achieve that by putting my needle back through exactly the same hole where I've just done my last stitch. Pull it through. Make sure that that loop is ending right on the corner of your work. Use your needle to move it around a bit if necessary, so that you can see there I've created a perfect shaped triangle with my thread right on the corner. By being particular about this stitch, you're going to make sure that you're ending up with a nice, neat looking corner there. So that's the second stitch in the corner, and then the third stitch in the corner again goes through exactly the same hole, and I'm going to create a second triangle so that I've actually got a complete square there in the corner. Now that I've got my corner done, I can just continue blanket stitching on the second edge just as I was on the last. There it is. I hope that helps.